police ambulance.
Roger, location.
Hello, I'm at Crane in dispatch to the police.
Shall I call up?
Hello, I'm in Crane in Birmingham. Someone's been stabbed.
It's Boxing Day 2022 inside the Crane Nightclub in Digbeth, central Birmingham. A man named Cody Fisher has just been stabbed in the chest and is bleeding to death. Cody, a 23-year-old former Birmingham City football prospect, was the victim of a brutal, targeted attack. Today, we look at the events that led up to this senseless killing. We'll also look into the police investigation and eventual prosecutions. The story begins 2 days earlier, on Christmas Eve, when Cody Fisher had been out partying with friends inside the Pop World nightclub in Solihull, about 8 miles south of Birmingham. Accounts suggest it was a busy night inside the club, packed full of revellers bringing in Christmas Day with a bang. At some point in the night, Fisher allegedly bumped into another patron. Now, most people would shrug this off as a simple accident. It's a busy nightclub and these things happen. But the man Fisher bumped into didn't see it that way. Remy Gordon was a 22-year-old from Erdington in Birmingham. After Fisher bumped into his back, Gordon challenged him, demanding an apology. Unfortunately, this is something that we see all too often. Young men full of testosterone, perhaps intoxicated in a busy nightclub, it's dark, and either through carelessness or by accident you bump into someone and they challenge you about it. But how you respond to that can make a big difference. If it was an accident, usually you say sorry and you walk away. But sometimes ego and bravado kick in. Maybe Fisher didn't like the way Gordon challenged him. Maybe one or both of them had a bit of a chip on their shoulder. In any event, the situation quickly escalated. CCTV captured the pair arguing, and it was later reported that Gordon asked Fisher to step outside for a fight. Fisher refused to leave the club, but he did accept Gordon's invitation to fight. Before they could come to blows, however, the altercation was broken up and diffused by another man. It was suggested that Gordon probably expected Fisher to back down and cower away from his aggression. Gordon was apparently furious that Fisher had dared to stand up for himself. In a cowardly response, he set about recruiting his friends to exact revenge on Fisher. Within 4 minutes of leaving the nightclub, Remy Gordon was texting friends on Snapchat trying to identify who Fisher was. He now knew that Fisher wouldn't be intimidated by the threat of a fist fight, and he made it clear in his messages that he was up in the ante to knife crime. The language used by Gordon in these Snapchat messages is associated with the urban drill subculture. As I've mentioned in a previous video, a key characteristic of that subculture is what I would describe as a hypersensitivity to perceived disrespect. Fisher bumping into Gordon and then apparently failing to offer an apology, that was probably seen by Gordon as Fisher showing a lack of respect. The lowest form of respect is fear. Unable or unwilling to command respect by being successful or talented or intelligent, members of this subculture measure respect by how much they're feared by others. Knives and similar weapons command more fear than fists, and a large group commands more fear than a single individual. Through mutual associates, Gordon and his friends, including 21-year-old Cammy Carpenter and 18-year-old Regan Anderson, received intel that Fisher was expected to be out again on Boxing Day at a big clubbing event at the Crane Nightclub in Digbeth. Messages retrieved from their group Snapchat showed Gordon and Carpenter discussing whether the nightclub's door staff would let them in with ski masks on. They also discussed whether or not they could sneak a zombie knife into the venue. As it turns out, the security staff at the Crane Nightclub actually did let the men in. Gordon can be seen here passing security checks, despite the fact that he's wearing a ski mask and a tracksuit. A ski mask and tracksuit should never be acceptable for entry into any nightclub. This is clearly not the attire of someone who is out to party and have a good time. Nightclubs, like all businesses, have a duty of care to their customers, and that includes offering protection against risks that are reasonably foreseeable. Seemingly more focused on getting as many people through the door as possible, the nightclub failed to properly vet and search all attendees that night, and it would end up having deadly consequences. Once inside, Gordon spotted a man named Sam Newey, a mutual friend of his and Fisher's. He asked him if Fisher was around. Newey told him that he wasn't, but in reality, Fisher was there. He was accompanied by his girlfriend Jess Chatwin and his best friend Daniel Van. Newey tried to persuade Fisher to leave the club after seeing Gordon and his boys were looking for him, wearing ski masks and balaclavas. Fisher ignored his warnings and remained inside the club for several more hours. Shortly after 11:30, Gordon, Carpenter and a few more of their guys approached Fisher, who was dancing with Jess and Daniel. Gordon's gang, all wearing masks, ordered Fisher outside. Fisher, preparing to defend himself, removed his gold chain and handed it to his girlfriend Jess, before one of Gordon's gang suddenly headbutted him in the face. The two groups, one significantly larger than the other, began fighting. During the melee, Cody Fisher was stabbed in the chest and leg and fell to the floor. It was bedlam. Everyone dispersed, running for the exits. Cody remained laying on the floor. Security staff administered CPR, but the knife blade had cut through the main valve to Fisher's heart. The injury wasn't survivable. Gordon's group split up once outside the club. Carpenter left the scene in his Audi, while Gordon made his way to a local pizza takeaway spot. Their group Snapchat contained messages between them and their associates. Gordon replied saying, "Someone stabbed him, dumb decision." But despite this, he could be seen on CCTV apparently reenacting the kick that he delivered to the fatally injured Fisher. Carpenter would join Gordon at the pizza shop about an hour later after changing his clothes. In the days following the killing, both Gordon and Carpenter fled to the London area, 120 miles away from Birmingham. Carpenter booked a flight for Jamaica, which was due to depart the next day. Following a short manhunt, both were arrested by police. Gordon, Carpenter and Anderson were charged with murder and affray, a charge relating to fighting in public. The Crown's position was that although Cammy Carpenter actually stabbed Cody Fisher, both Carpenter and Gordon were equally responsible as a joint enterprise murder. A joint enterprise prosecution is where more than one person can be prosecuted for a murder if they were involved and had foreseen that Mr. Fisher might be killed or seriously hurt. They asserted that it was Gordon's grudge with Fisher that was the catalyst for the murderous assault, and had he not recruited Carpenter, Fisher would still be alive. When giving evidence at trial, Gordon and Carpenter blamed each other for the murder. Carpenter told jurors that Gordon had manufactured lies to disguise his own involvement in the stabbing. Gordon said he only found out about the stabbing when Carpenter confessed to him in the pizza shop.
Two men have been jailed for life for the murder of the footballer Cody Fisher on Boxing Day in 2022. Remy Gordon will serve a minimum of 26 years and Cammy Carpenter will serve a minimum of 25 years for their part in the nightclub knife attack in Birmingham.
Gordon was found guilty of murder and affray and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 26 years before being eligible for parole. Carpenter was found guilty of murder by a majority of 10-1, but was cleared of affray. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 25 years before being eligible for parole. Regan Anderson was cleared of murder and manslaughter, but was convicted of affray. he was sentenced to 18 months imprisonment.